more and more important. Right, let's move on. I'm delighted to say we've got Mickey Ned O'Sullivan on the line this morning to talk to us about the Kerry captaincy issue. Mickey Ned, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
You were a very young man when you were thrust into the role of captain with the Kerry footballers. What exactly is that like? What's that like when you step into a room as a man in your young 20s and look around and go, all right, well, okay, there are some legends of the game here?
Well, I suppose in my time, the role wasn't as important as it is today. The captain plays a major role now in the whole dynamic of the culture, the spirit, the morale of the team, and where he has to take control and create the leadership groups and drive it both on and off the field. That time, it was the only place you had to do it was lead by example on the field, because the role of the leader at that time was mainly with the manager. Now, I suppose the role of leadership, they say that 70% of leadership is learned, and maybe 30% is innate. So, appointing a young person is a risk because they haven't had the experience of acquiring the leadership qualities at that age. But in the situation of David Clifford, he commands the respect of all the players because he can lead on the field. Now, he's got to learn how to lead both on and off, more off the field. And I think that he's a bright guy. He has done it, and he commands the respect of everybody. So, but it's putting added pressure on his shoulders at such an early age. Ideally, the manager would prefer to have the responsibility, both the manager and the management and the players together, to develop or to appoint. But the system in Kerry is different. It's appointed, the manager is appointed as a result of his team winning the county championship of the previous year.
Yeah.
Now, that is, I think that holds back a county in a management team of a team.
That's interesting. Can I talk to you? Because I should have looked this up before we came on, but I don't remember who your captains were when you were the manager of the Kerry team. Was it an issue for you at that point?
It was. I didn't have a say in the appointment of managers at that time. It was imposed on the management because of the system. Now I think that this system is out. I welcome the appointment of David Clifford because I think he's one of the brightest potential players with the greatest potential in the country. But I think from a Peter Kane's point of view and the manager's point of view, I think they would prefer that they still appoint. They probably would appoint David, but that they would look and say, who is the natural leader in the dressing room? Who is the guy that will drive it on and off the field? Who is the guy that everybody looks up to? And naturally, it is somebody in the upper echelons of the age structure who has the experience and who has the respect over a long period of time.
Somebody like David Moran, I'd say, would be a standout.
Yes, David Moran, yes. But I'm not disagreeing in any way with the appointment because I think he's somebody everybody looks up to on the field. But it puts that added burden on him as a 21 or 21-year-old going on the field. There's that added pressure on him now.
I guess there was an added pressure making it on him as well when he was thrown straight in with the senior team out of minors, didn't get involved with the under-20 team as well. He's done back-to-back All-Stars. It's not just a throwaway comment, is it, that it will rest lightly on his shoulders?
He has proven it already on the field. But 80% of the role of captain now is off the field. And it's about creating a leadership group and helping the team to be driven forward by these leaders off the field, which is far more time-consuming and demanding than in my time, where these things didn't exist.
Oh, just having a bit of problem with the line there with Mickey now. We'll get him back in a second. Look, I understand. I don't think anybody's actually critical of the decision. No. It's just it's whether or not this process serves Kerry football the best.
100%. It's a situation where this is a good news story. Could there be a better appointment out there? Like, I definitely subscribe to some bit of the theory that it isn't the be all and end all, and that because Kerry had to deal with this forever,
they have systems in place.
Yeah, like it's
not breaking news to them. Yeah,
no, and I think the recent years definitely have trained him pretty well in that. So, I'm sure that there is already a leadership group that exists.
I know you're saying that it rests lightly on his shoulders, but we don't know that, right? Because we can't tell the future. So we don't know that this extra bit. So already being the anointed Messiah has rested fairly easily on his shoulders so far. That's fair enough. But bear in mind that you think back to the club game. Is it 18 months ago when there was the big row? The targeting that he's getting at club level is going to now be multiplied much more at senior inter-county level, and there's just that extra bit of responsibility where he's thinking, okay, I need to carry the whole team here. I literally now am the captain and the anointed leader. It's rested easily on his shoulders so far, but what if this is just that little bit of extra burden? Mickey Ned, you're welcome back. Thanks very much. We fixed the phone lines there. I guess I know that it has. I'm just making the point while you're away there that he has carried the weight of expectation so effortlessly so far in his career, but we actually don't know what the added impetus. As you say, 80% is away from the field. What if, like, some of that time is time that he was spending kicking and getting his practice in? Just the free time that you have to do whatever you want. Now all of a sudden is like, oh, I've got to show up for the sponsors and I've got to do the media and I've got to do all the extra stuff that comes with being captain, and that's a little bit of the secret sauce that gives him the confidence. I guess there's sometimes unintended consequences from decisions like this.
David has the experience of captaincy already. I think, to best of my knowledge, he captained Kerry to win an All-Ireland minor. And now I could be mistaken, but I'm almost certain. And he has that experience, and which very few people will have that experience already. And he will have learned a lot from that role, even though it was only at minor level. And obviously, I presume Peter Kane was involved with the minor team that time and would have seen his leadership qualities and would be pleased with that because he's been through the ropes and won an All-Ireland as a captain. So that would be a major benefit.
I'm pretty sure he was captain the day he scored 4 against Derry in the All-Ireland, so he handled that pretty well, Mickey Ned. Like, just the one thing that I always think is that I may read into it way too much, but say what Dublin did a few years back with just picking a concrete captain, and that captain was Stephen Cluxon, and maybe there's a bit of revisionism because everything's worked out so well for Dublin. But would you agree with the idea that picking the one captain, picking that totemic figure was something that worked really well for them, and maybe in a few years' time, David Clifford is that guy who is just the captain and everybody knows that?
From a dynamic point of view and from a manager's point of view, the ideal situation is pick the best leader and keep the best leader as long as he is the best leader, and get him to build the whole leadership, get every player to be leaders around him and to push it both on and off the field. Now, Dublin did that and it was successful with Cluxton. So that's what every manager would like. But in Kerry, the manager's hands are tied. It's an out-of-date system, and it's the clubs that are keeping the power. And I disagree with that, because if you appoint a manager, you allow him develop his own or appoint his own management team and his own leadership team within the team. So that has proven in every sport to be successful. Now, just because a person is a member of a county board or county champions doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to provide the best leader.
No, of course. It's almost incidental.
I have no doubt about it that David will rise to the occasion, because he's always risen to the occasion to date. But it's putting a lot of pressure on him. And ideally, their system has to be changed going forward in the interest of Kerry football.
Mickey Ned, great to have you with us this morning. Thanks a million for taking the call.
Pleasure.
That's
okay.
Kerry legend Mickey Ned O'Sullivan talking to us about his own experience as a 23-year-old being thrust into the captaincy role and the necessary change that needs to happen for Kerry football. I totally understand. I totally understand that if you're the manager, you want to pick your captain. And here's the other thing. Like, if Clifford is now the captain and is going to be the captain forever, does that not mean that everybody else doesn't get to be captain at some point? Like, Sean O'Shea looks like he is captaincy material. Like, he's a pivot in the team. He's somebody who's going to be going deep and getting on the ball. He's somebody who's going to be thrusting forward and making runs. Like, is he never allowed to be the Kerry captain because they've now picked this 21-year-old who's going to be captain forever? Yeah,
it's a good point. I think you're right. Sean O'Shea is absolute perfect captaincy material already at the age of 20, pinging balls into the hill on Ireland Day.
Anthony Moyles is on the line this morning as well. Anthony, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you doing?
Yeah, so what's your take on... so Clifford is captain and he's 20 today, he's 21 tomorrow, and Peter Keane has come out and said, oh, look, he's going to be a great captain, I'm sure, but, you know, I'm just not sure about whether or not we should be adding this extra pressure onto him. What's your take on the whole thing?
Yeah, I'd agree with that, to be honest. You know, I think he's a fella who is obviously going to be massively in the spotlight this year and probably for a long many years to come. I think he's a guy who's going to be targeted, obviously, by every single team that he comes up against. Opposition managers are going to do their level best to try and stop him doing whatever and having any effect he can on any game. And, you know, I think for a young guy, you know, he is, 21. Okay, some people would say, well, 21-year-olds are a little bit different than the 21-year-olds 10 or 15 years ago. They're more mature. I don't know. I don't know the guy personally. He seems like a mature fella. Obviously, when he came up from minor, you know, he took to the inter-county scene very well. He wasn't fazed by any, you know, kind of physical intimidation that occurred to him from other players or anything like that, or verbal intimidation. But at the same time, captaincy is a very, very, very different role. You know, you can't let, say, a situation happen or affect you, let's say, where you're not going well. You have to be the captain for the team. So, you know, even if you're not going well or things aren't working out for you, or you're in a physical battle or, again, a mental battle with your opposition player, you can't let it affect you. You have to be there for others. And that's not only in the preparation for the game, but it's also during the game. So there's going to be, you know, notwithstanding the pressure of the game and, you know, worrying about what I'm captain, and look, they're going to try and take that off him. But, you know, it's the build-up to the game. It's making sure his fellow players are okay. It's being a voice for the players. It's dealing with the management team if there's ever any way that they're going that they don't think the players maybe want to question. So there is going to be an awful lot more responsibility put on his shoulders. And I would just worry that, you know, personally, I would think that he has enough on his plate, and I would have preferred, if I was down there, that you would give it to a more seasoned campaigner.
I buy all that, right? The only thing here, and we were just having this conversation a little bit earlier on, if the other way is like you have this iconic leader, and Kerry never had that. Like if you read any of the stuff that Darragh O'Shea has talked about, they always wanted to hammer the hammers. So you pick the leader in the opposition team and you go after them because you know that if you chop the head off the opposition, then the body's going to die. And we haven't quite invested captaincy in Gaelic football or hurling with the same sort of bullshit that, say, the English football team have, or even in rugby it's completely different, I think, because you know, there is actually a specific role where you get to talk with the referee. We haven't quite turned that into, like, we look for leadership groups in great teams. You know, you think back to the Meath team who went and sat with Sean Boylan in his kitchen and said, we're playing the wrong way. It wasn't one man who did that. It wasn't just the captain of the team. It was 3 or 4 of them. You think of the Cork strike. It wasn't just their captain who did it. It was like a bunch of leaders coming together. I wonder if captaincy, if actually this doesn't matter as much as we think it does.
Yeah, like you can take that view, and there's, there are leadership groups, but at the end of the day, when he goes to bed at night, and if there's trouble in the camp, or if they've just been beaten by Cork in the Munster Championship or whatever it is, he is captain, and he will recognise that, and he will think about that, and he will feel the responsibility of that. He'll feel it prior to the game. He'll feel it in the build-up to the game. He'll feel it in his media duties. He'll feel it in his interactions with supporters, with management, with the opposition, with officials, and then indeed his own players. And yes, you can spread it out. And I'm all for having a forwards captain and a backs captain as well, and a vice captain. So really, there should be probably 4 sets of ears, being there to kind of listen and to advise, and to help him. But at the same time, Ger, it's another year, it's another campaign, unbelievable campaign from last year. People are expecting massive things, and the level of expectation is there, and it's only growing week by week, and month by month, you would imagine, and game by game. So it's a strange thing, captaincy. I always remember I was Meath captain. Certainly I felt that, you had to be kind of driving the tone of every training session. Now, rightly or wrongly, but if you saw guys slacking off, or if you saw a drill not going right, you'd call it in. And more often than not, the captain did it. Now, you want leaders throughout the team, absolutely. But, if panels are new, if there's a lot of new guys, if there's a lot of change, if there's a lot of younger guys, if the panel is a quiet panel, whatever it is, it can sometimes fall back on the captain or the vice captain to try and, dictate the temperament or the environment or the atmosphere of a training session, or even a video session for that matter. And a lot of it then, a lot of people will look to the captain and kind of say, well, what do you think? And if so, I don't know what type of captain he will be. He might be the silent type, who just gets on with it and says, well, look at what I do on the field, and that's how I kind of walk the walk. Or he might be the one who's very verbal, and who wants to talk and wants to cajole lads, wants to encourage fellas, wants to be there as an ear to listen to guys. One or the other, they both bring extra pressures, because if you're the guy who says, well, judge me on my performances, and you're being marked by 2 fellas from Cork or 2 or 3 guys from Donegal, and they're taking you completely out of the game, well, then your performance isn't going to be there potentially. So it's a tricky one for him, it is a tricky one for him. I think it's a difficult thing down there with the whole system, with the county champions and stuff like that. I think it puts added pressure on the actual captain. So, and I'm not saying Clifford maybe isn't, he won't become a brilliant captain, but every year you have found in the past that guys who have been captain, haven't necessarily even been on the team all the time. Yeah. So it's a strange dynamic.
Yeah. All right, Anthony, thanks a million for joining us this morning. Great stuff.
No bother, lads. Cheers.
Anthony Moyles giving us his thoughts there on the situation in Kerry. It is 10 minutes past 8 this morning.